Have you ever had a day where everything just felt like it was falling apart? Now imagine that same day turning into the moment that changes your whole life forever. Sounds crazy, right? What if you were poor, alone, and tired, and almost got hit by a billionaire's car, but instead of shouting or driving away, he stops and helps? Would you trust him? Could his kindness really change your life? And what if, just when everything starts getting better, someone from your painful past shows up again? This is the story of a poor girl and her sick mother, left with nothing, not even hope. But one small moment changes everything. From sleeping on the streets to living in a mansion. From pain to love. From tears to dreams. But this isn't just a love story, it's a story about second chances, growth, and learning to believe again. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you all around the world. And don't forget, the best comment will be pinned at the top of this video. So go ahead and drop your thoughts below. Who knows? Maybe yours will be the one we highlight, like the video if the title already gave you goosebumps, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Now sit back, relax, and watch closely, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Let's go back to where it all began on a cold, rainy night. Have you ever had a day where everything just felt like it was falling apart? Now imagine that same day turning into the moment that changes your whole life forever. Sounds crazy, right? What if you were poor, alone, and tired, and almost got hit by a billionaire's car, but instead of shouting or driving away, he stops and helps? Would you trust him? Could his kindness really change your life? And what if, just when everything starts getting better, someone from your painful past shows up again? This is the story of a poor girl and her sick mother, left with nothing, not even hope. But one small moment changes everything. From sleeping on the streets to living in a mansion. From pain to love. From tears to dreams. But this isn't just a love story, it's a story about second chances, growth, and learning to believe again. Before we begin, comment below and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from you all around the world. And don't forget, the best comment will be pinned at the top of this video. So go ahead and drop your thoughts below. Who knows? Maybe yours will be the one we highlight, like the video if the title already gave you goosebumps, and share it with someone who needs a little hope today. Now sit back, relax, and watch closely, because what happens next will leave you speechless. Let's go back to where it all began on a cold, rainy night. The struggle: she was only 19, but life had already been too hard on her. The girl and her mother had no home. They were living in an old, broken-down shelter on the edge of the city. The place had no doors, no windows, and no warmth. Just walls and a leaking roof that barely kept the rain out. Her mother was very sick. She had trouble breathing and often lay still for hours. They had no money for medicine, no proper food, and no one to call for help. Every day was a battle just to survive. The girl didn't give up. She couldn't. Her mother was all she had. So she would walk into the city carrying a small bundle of flowers in her hands. She picked them herself from a nearby park, wildflowers that she hoped would sell. Standing on busy street corners, she would smile at strangers and ask, "Would you like to buy a flower?" Most people ignored her. Some gave her a few coins out of pity. Some just walked by like she didn't exist. But even a few coins meant she could buy some bread or a tablet for her mother's fever. That was all she needed to keep going. One evening, things took a turn for the worse. It had been raining all day. The girl had barely sold anything. Her clothes were soaked. Her hands were freezing. As she walked back toward the shelter, she found her mother lying on the ground. Her eyes were shut, and her body wasn't moving. Panic filled her heart. She shouted her mother's name and tried to wake her up, but nothing happened. She had to find help, and fast. Without thinking twice, she picked up her weak mother and started walking toward the road. She didn't care about the rain anymore. She didn't care that her shoes were broken or that her legs were hurting. She just wanted someone, anyone, to stop and help them. As she reached the main road, a bright light from a fast car blinded her for a second. The sound of screeching tires filled the air. A luxury car came to a sudden stop, just inches away from her and her mother. She froze. Her heart was pounding. She thought this was it, that her mother would be gone and she would be blamed for everything. But then something unexpected happened. The door of the car opened slowly, and instead of yelling or being angry, the man inside stepped out quietly. He looked at the girl and then at her mother lying limp in her arms. There was no anger in his eyes, only concern, only care. The man who stepped out of the car looked nothing like what she expected a billionaire to look like. He was dressed well, yes, but not flashy. He had a calm face and eyes that seemed to notice everything. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. He simply looked at her mother and said, "Get in. I'll take you to the hospital." The girl hesitated. Why would a rich man help her? Most people didn't even stop to look her way when she sold flowers on the street. Why would someone like him care? But her mother was still unconscious. She didn't have time to think. Carefully, she helped her mother into the car. The seats were soft and warm, and for the first time in days, she felt a little safe. He drove fast but carefully. When they reached the private hospital, nurses rushed to help the moment he spoke. It was like doors opened just because he asked. No one asked the girl for money. No one turned her away. They took her mother into a room, and doctors started treating her right away. The girl sat outside the room, wet, cold, and confused. The man sat beside her. "You don't have to worry about the cost," he said gently. She looked at him with wide eyes. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know us." He was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke. "I know what it's like to have no one," he said. "When I was a little boy, my parents left me. I lived in a shelter too. I was hungry. I was scared. But someone helped me once. Just one person. And it changed my whole life." She didn't know what to say. "No one helped me before," she whispered. "Well," he replied, "you have someone now." She didn't fully trust him yet. Felt too good to be real. But something about his voice, his calm way of speaking, made her believe he was telling the truth. He didn't ask anything in return. He didn't treat her like she was less than him. He just waited, checking with the doctors, making sure her mother was okay. Later that night, the doctors said her mother was stable. She had an infection and a weak heart, but she would recover with the right care. The girl felt her chest loosen for the first time in a long while. She looked at the man again. "Thank you," she said softly. He nodded. "You don't have to thank me. Just stay strong." For her, the hospital gave them a clean room to rest in. She helped her mother settle into bed, and for the first time in weeks, she lay down on a warm blanket. The pillow felt like clouds. She watched her mother sleeping peacefully, and tears slipped down her cheeks. Quiet tears of relief. She glanced at the door. The man had left, but something told her this wasn't the end. That night, everything changed. Not just for the girl, but for him too. The next morning, the billionaire came back to the hospital. He looked calm, but there was a quiet kindness in his voice. "I've arranged a better place for you and your mother," he said. "Somewhere safe, somewhere warm." The girl stared at him. "Why?" she asked again. "You've already done so much." He simply replied, "Because no one should live the way you were living. You both deserve better." The girl didn't know what to say. She wanted to believe him, but she had learned to be careful. She had seen enough people break promises, enough people walk away. But her mother smiled weakly from the bed. Maybe he's the one person who means it," she whispered. That made the girl pause. Her mother's voice was soft, but there was a kind of hope in it that she hadn't heard in a long time, a hope that made the girl think twice. Later that day, they left the hospital and were taken to a house just outside the city. It wasn't huge, but it was beautiful. It had big windows, soft lighting, and the scent of fresh bread coming from the kitchen. The rooms were clean. There were warm blankets, soft towels, and even flowers in a vase near the bed. The girl walked through the house slowly, unsure if it was all real. She looked at the food on the table. She touched the clean clothes folded neatly for her. Felt like a dream. "I don't understand why he's doing all this," she whispered. Her mother gently held her hand. "Sometimes," she said, "kindness doesn't come with a reason. Sometimes it just comes when you need it most." So, the girl decided to stay. The first few days were strange. She didn't know how to act. She wasn't used to eating full meals. She wasn't used to someone asking if she was okay. She kept waiting for something to go wrong. But nothing did. Every day, her mother looked a little better. With proper medicine and regular meals, her face started to gain color again. Her hands stopped shaking. Her eyes looked less tired. The girl began to relax. Slowly. She helped around the house. She made tea for her mother and washed the dishes. The billionaire didn't live there, but he visited often. And he always asked how her mother was doing, never making a big deal out of it that he didn't act like a rich man. He sat with them like an old friend. Sometimes he brought books, sometimes fruit, and sometimes just stories about his past. He talked about the days when he had nothing and how one old man had helped him learn how to fix bicycles. That small skill helped him get his first job. And from there, everything grew. The girl listened quietly, but something in her heart started to change. For the first time in her life, she started to believe that maybe she could grow. 2.1 evening, while sitting in the garden, her mother laughed at something silly the billionaire said. The girl laughed, too. And just like that, the silence in their life broke. They laughed together like they hadn't in years. The house didn't just give them comfort. It gave them peace. It gave them moments that felt like life again. The girl still had doubts, but they were fading. Her days were no longer filled with fear or hunger. Her mother was healing, and she was beginning to feel something new inside her. She was beginning to feel safe. But the biggest change wasn't comfort, it was confidence. The days passed quietly, but something inside the girl was changing. She didn't just feel safer, she felt curious. Every time the billionaire visited, he spoke about his business meetings, phone calls, and plans. She didn't understand most of it, but it sounded exciting. One afternoon, she asked him a question. What exactly do you do every day? He smiled, surprised by her interest. I run a company, he said. It's a lot of work, emails, calls, meetings, deals, numbers, and always learning something new. She nodded slowly, her eyes focused. Can anyone learn that? Of course, he replied. You just have to be willing to try. The next day, he brought her a small tablet. Let's start with something simple, he said. She learned how to write emails. At first, her hands shook while typing. She didn't know what to say or how to say it, but he guided her gently. He didn't laugh when she made mistakes. He just showed her how to fix them. Soon, she was helping him organize his calendar, reply to simple messages, and read documents. He taught her about presentations and explained how deals worked. He even let her sit beside him during quiet meetings, where she listened and learned that IT wasn't easy, but it was exciting. She worked hard every day, asking questions, taking notes, and reading anything he gave her. Bit by bit, she started understanding how the business worked. She learned how to speak clearly and write with confidence. And for the first time in her life, she began to feel proud of herself. She saw herself differently in the mirror. The shy, scared girl who used to sell flowers was now someone who could speak with power and think with purpose. One afternoon, she helped him solve a small issue in one of his projects. It was something simple, but it worked. He looked at her and smiled. You have a sharp mind, he said. Don't ever doubt that. His words stayed with her. She started setting small goals for herself. She would read one business article a day. She would try writing better emails. She would ask more questions. The more she learned, the more she wanted to learn. Her mother saw the change, too. You look happy, she said one evening. You laugh more now. Your eyes are full of life. The girl smiled and sat beside her mother. I think I'm finally learning who I am. And the billionaire noticed all of it. He watched her grow, step by step, never rushing her. He never treated her like someone he saved. He treated her like someone with great potential that he gave her a chance. And she used it well. Sometimes, they sat in the garden after dinner and talked. They spoke about their childhoods, their fears, their hopes. It wasn't just about business anymore. It was about life. She told him how scared she used to be, how she thought her life would never change, how she once believed no one would ever see her. He listened quietly, then said, I see you now. I always have. That moment made her heart beat faster. She realized something then. This man who had once been a stranger, who had stopped his car on that rainy night, had become more than just a helper. He had become her guide, her friend, her safe place. And she had become someone he believed in. Then, one evening under the stars, he tells her how much she means to him. One quiet evening, they sat together on the garden bench under the stars. It had become their favorite place to talk. The night was calm, the sky clear, and the soft sound of wind moved through the trees. The billionaire looked at her with serious eyes. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone?" he asked. She nodded. He took a deep breath. "When I was a child, my father left me. Just walked away one day and never came back." Her eyes widened. She had always seen him as strong and unshaken. But now, she saw something deeper, something broken. "I waited for him every day," he continued, his voice softer now. "At first, I believed he'd come back. Then I started blaming myself. I thought maybe I wasn't good enough, that I didn't matter." She didn't know what to say, so she held his hand. "I felt lost for years," he said. "But I made a promise to myself. I'd never let someone feel that kind of emptiness. I worked hard, built a life, made money, but something was always missing." He turned to her, his eyes filled with emotion. "Until I met you." Her heart skipped a beat. "You reminded me what it means to care," he said. "Your strength, your courage, your love for your mother. It made me feel again. I started to believe in people again. In love. In family." She looked down, feeling her eyes fill with tears. "I don't want to live without you," he said. "Not another day." He stood up, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a small box. He got down on one knee. "Will you marry me?" The world seemed to stop. She covered her mouth in shock. For a few seconds, she couldn't even speak. Her mind raced. Just months ago, she had been sleeping in an abandoned shelter, praying for her mother's health. Now, this kind and caring man was asking her to be his wife. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "Yes," she whispered. Then louder, "Yes, I will." He smiled, stood up, and hugged her tightly. At that moment, all the pain from their past seemed to disappear. They weren't two broken people anymore. Together, they felt whole. The days that followed were full of joy. They planned their wedding, helped by friends and kind staff. Her mother smiled more than she had in years. She told her daughter, "You deserve this happiness. You've always had a good heart." The girl wore simple clothes, but she walked with the confidence of someone who had found her place in the world. She wasn't scared anymore. She had love, purpose, and a future she never thought was possible. Everyone could see the change in her. She was glowing with happiness. The billionaire, too, looked lighter. He laughed more, talked more, and worked a little less. He had found something more valuable than success. He had found someone who truly saw him, not just his money or status. They spent late nights choosing flowers and music, talking about their hopes, and imagining the life they would build together. It was all starting to feel real. But just days before the wedding, something unexpected happened. But right before their dream wedding, someone returns from her past. A few days before the wedding, the girl decided to walk through the city. She wanted some quiet time, just to think. The streets were busy, but she walked slowly, taking in the world that had once been so cruel to her. Then, she saw him sitting near a wall, with a dirty blanket around his shoulders. Was a man who looked tired and much older than she remembered. Her feet stopped. Her heart beat faster. It was her father. The same man who had walked out on her and her mother many years ago. The one they had waited for. The one who never came back. He looked up, not recognizing her at first. His face was thin, his eyes sunken. Life had clearly been hard on him, too. Then their eyes met. His expression changed. "Is it really you?" he asked, standing up slowly. "My daughter." She didn't speak. Her thoughts were spinning. So many memories came rushing back. Nights without food, her mother crying quietly, the cold winters in that broken shelter. "You look different," he said, almost smiling. "You've grown. You look healthy, happy." She stayed quiet, her hands shaking. He stepped closer. "Listen, I know I made mistakes. I know I left, but life wasn't easy for me either. I was ashamed to come back. I didn't know how. Tears filled her eyes. She had imagined this moment so many times, but now that it was happening, she didn't know what to feel. I'm sick, he whispered, and hungry. I have no one left. He looked down. Please help me. Just a little. Her heart hurt. Deep inside, she still carried the wounds he had left behind. A small part of her wanted to help, but a bigger part remembered the pain, the years of silence, the way he had chosen to leave. She looked at him for a long moment. Then gently, she said, I'm not the same girl you left behind. He looked confused. I've learned to live without you, she added. And I've finally found people who stayed, even when they didn't have to. She turned around and started to walk away. He didn't stop her. Maybe he knew he didn't deserve another chance. Maybe he understood that sometimes forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It means moving forward. As she walked, her steps felt heavy but sure. She had always wondered what she would do if she saw him again. Now, she knew the answer. She chose not to look back. Because this story isn't about who left, it's about who stayed. The wedding was simple, but it was everything they had dreamed of. There were no grand ceremonies or extravagant decorations. Instead, it was filled with love, laughter, and warmth. Everything the girl and her mother had missed for so many years. Her mother sat in the front row, tears of pride glistening in her eyes. She had never imagined this day would come. From the days of sleeping in cold shelters to now, watching her daughter walk down the aisle, it felt like a miracle. The girl, now a young woman, was dressed in a modest but beautiful gown. She wasn't just a girl anymore. She was strong, confident, and full of hope. She had walked through darkness and emerged into a life of light. And that day, as she stood in front of the man who had changed everything, she knew that this was only the beginning. The billionaire, now her husband, smiled at her with so much love in his eyes. They had both faced pain. They had both lost things they could never get back. But now they were building a future together. A future where they would create their own happiness, their own family, and their own dreams. As the ceremony continued, the girl couldn't help but think of how far she had come. The girl who once cried herself to sleep in the cold, who didn't know where the next meal would come from, was now walking into a new life. A life filled with love, respect, and hope. She looked at her mother, the woman who had never given up on her, the woman who had been her only constant, her only source of strength. Her mother smiled at her, and the girl could see the peace in her eyes. They had come through the storm together. Now they could finally enjoy the sunshine. The vows were simple, but they were full of meaning. The girl, now a woman, promised to love and honor her new husband, just as he had promised to do the same for her. Their love had been built on trust, kindness, and understanding. It was the kind of love that could heal old wounds and create new beginnings. As the ceremony ended, they walked down the aisle together, hand in hand. There was no turning back. The past was behind them, and the future was ahead. The girl had become the woman she was meant to be, and this new chapter of her life was just beginning. Sometimes, life breaks us, only to rebuild us even stronger. Do you believe one kind act can change a life? Comment below your thoughts. The best comment will be pinned, and let us know. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this powerful story.